Turn to somebody next to you and say, let's be kind together. Turn to somebody else near you and say, let's be kind together. Now go off. Just beautiful, right? And it's not the voice only, right? It's not Dale just standing there. It's what he embodied when he sang that, right? And I think that that's what I want to share with you about service. It's not about the action. It's about what we are embodying as we are acting in the world, right? And there's a difference there. We can do a whole lot of things, and the consciousness that we bring to those things will be what creates, well, actually, it'll always create. And it'll be what inspires what we want to create, the vision that we are holding. Now, Ram Dass, who for me is sort of like one of my own spiritual gurus, once said, we're all just walking each other home. What if service is the way in which we walk each other home? What if being of service is the actual path that brings us to that space where we feel at home? And earlier in the service, in the first service, somebody shared with me, Nana, shared with me about the power that I believe is within our own teachings and our principles. Gosh, I love that at some point in my life, I stopped being as worried about the afterlife and living heaven up there and started to recognize that I could start living heaven now. Like, why wait to feel that type of love, to feel that kind of peace, to feel that kind of grace when I'm, on the other side of things, when I can start to experience those things here. And when I sit with that and when I'm reminded that heaven is a possibility right here and right now, it invites me to experience life differently, and it invites me to act with life differently, because I can be a creator of heaven on earth. I can create the kind of experiences that make me feel that kind of love that somebody else told me at one point, you won't fully get it until you're in the afterlife. And I say to that, then you haven't been to Unity on the Bay. You haven't been to the place within us that recognizes when we are in heaven. Because many of you, actually I will say all of you, whether you named it that or not, whether you labeled that or not, have experienced heaven on earth. You've experienced the kind of love that so many people are searching for. You've experienced the kind of peace that so much of our path invites us into. You have experienced God's grace and God's beauty and God's blessings and God's miracles in a way that makes you realize it's possible. And the opportunity is for us to look at how we can make the possible the reality. And I really believe that Ram Dass had it going on and had an idea, had the understanding of how that could be. And Ram Dass is supported by so many master teachers, right, that speak to this power of being of service, whether it's the Buddha who said a generous heart, kind speech, and a life of service and compassion are the things which renew humanity. How many of you are willing to see humanity renewed in this moment? How many of us are willing to see that what is taking place is a renewing, right? A renewing of our minds, a renewing of our heart, a renewing of the ways in which we get to be with each other, and we can focus on all the division and all the challenges and all the difficulties that are out there, and they're out there, right? I don't pretend that they're not, and we can also focus on what is being birthed through it. And we can recognize that it's not only about knowing what is being birthed through it, but that we ourselves are the ones that are giving birth to it, right? Like, we are the midwives to this new way of being. The Prophet Muhammad also said, a man's true wealth is the good that he does in this world. And then our master teacher, Jesus Christ, in Mark chapter 10, verse 43 says, whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant. So this idea about how we are serving each other and how we are serving life and how we are serving a vision of what is possible has been around. And the question is, how much of it do we want to actually start living it more fully and embodying it so that we also leave the kind of legacy that these master teachers left, right? So I am living into the legacy of Ram Dass, who is no longer on this earthly plane. And as I lean on his legacy, I get invited to ask myself, what's my legacy? And I get to be up here and ask you, what is your legacy? Because we're constantly creating our legacy. As we are creating heaven on earth, that is the way that we leave behind a clearer path, maybe, an easier path for the people that walk behind us, right? And in this understanding of how we can be, there is salvation. And in this understanding of the consciousness that we can bring to our actions and our activities is the manifestation of the kind of life and world that we want to experience. If we want to experience love, let's be love. And in that, we will not only know more fully what that vision actually means, we will start to experience it and allow that to be what guides us and moves us and inspires us into a greater understanding of what truly is at hand, a rebirth. Not a breakdown, but a breakthrough. Not a division, but people coming to recognize the healing power of our oneness and of God. And it's a perspective, but it's a perspective that we get to support through our own thinking, feeling, and actions, and the consciousness that we are living into. And so Ram Dass, as he came into this world and he inspired so much in this world, really invited us to what basically is karma yoga, right? Which is a path of enlightenment or a path towards enlightenment that includes seva, which is selfless acts of service. It is a way of finding devotion to God and the things that we want to experience in life through our actions and through recognizing that every single action that we have has the opportunity to be of service. And that really invites us to be much more conscious and much more clear about how we're walking on this earth. How many of you have, walked into some trouble here and there, only to realize, or how about this? We'll make it easy. How many of you have walked into a door? Oh, come on, people. I've walked into many a door, right? And why is it that we sometimes walk into doors? Because we are not conscious about the path that we are taking. Is it not true? Right? We're just not conscious. And so this is an invitation, hey, let's not hit ourselves on the face. Right? Let's be conscious about how we're showing up in the world and the path that we are on so that we don't get hit by the 2x4s, we don't get hurt in the process, but that we are welcoming what is at hand in that path. And so Ram Dass really reminds us about the power of service rooted in love, the consciousness that is rooted in love, and service as a way of the soul remembering what we're about, because that's what it's about, right? As we are of service, consciously being of service to the divine in each other, we get reminded, wait a minute, that divinity that I am serving in somebody else is the same divinity that is within me. And the more that I get to witness it in other people, the more I get to understand it within myself. And the more that I can witness it in my actions and in my ways of being, the more that I can recognize it is born from something that is sacred, that is holy, that is worthy, that has never not been within me and has never not been something that I can lean on and have my power come from. And so it awakens this service, this kind of service awakens our true spiritual nature. How many of you are willing to awaken in a greater way to your own divine spiritual nature? And let me tell you, if you didn't raise your hand for yourself, then raise your hand for the person next to you. Because that's what it's all about. I see a couple over here making the other, I see a couple of couples making the other one raise their hand. But it is, if you can't do it for yourself, then do it for the person next to you. Because that is what is at hand. And that is what this moment in time, and every single time that Dale sings that song and says, today is the most appropriate time for that song, it is. Because every single moment is the most appropriate day to be of service, to be of love, to be of peace, and to be about God's grace. Amen? Amen. And so, Ram Dass, for those of you who didn't raise your hand a little earlier, He was born Richard Alpert, and he was a Harvard psychologist who started to study Eastern philosophy and was really guided and inspired to go to India, where he met his guru, Maharaji. And when he came back, he really became one of the greatest spiritual voices of our time. Like I said, he's no longer on this plane, but he leaves a legacy, actually a foundation called Love, Serve, Remember. To love each other, to serve each other, and to remember God in that process. And when he came back, he wrote a book, Be Here Now, which introduced millions of people to meditation, to mindfulness, and to service as a path of love. And through his life, he really did teach that the essence of our spiritual journey was simple: to remember who we are and to love each other. Kind of sounds like master teacher saying, right? Like, love God and love each other. As simple or as complex as we each decide to make it. Now, one of the beautiful things that he shared is that being of service, truly being of sacred service, is a reminder that we aren't serving the personality, we aren't serving the problem or that brokenness. We are serving from a place of wholeness to a place of wholeness. And he says this about serving: I am not serving you. I am serving the one in you as the one in me. It's unity. It's the Christ in me salutes the Christ in you. The divinity within me recognizes the divinity in you and puts it into action, right? Puts it into action. I am serving the one in you from the place of the one in me. And this really invites us to think of the way in which we show up to help in a different way. Because so many times, right? And I don't, I'm a man of action, as many of you know. I like to be out there. I like to understand what is going on and my place within it. And so it doesn't take away from the actions that are inspired in us. And sometimes we get into that place of, I need to help that person because that person is less than me. Now, sometimes it's masked with that person doesn't have as much as me. And just the invitation, are you seeing when you are helping somebody that we are equals? That the power that is within me is the power that is within that person. And I'm just being guided to express my power in this way in support of that person's power, lifting up that person to their own understanding of their power. Or like fixing. So many times you get so fixated on fixing. And when I step back from some of that, I'm reminded to ask myself, am I doing it from a place of brokenness? That person is broken, right? Or that situation is broken? Or am I doing it from that consciousness of that person is whole, this opportunity is a rebirth, and there is something greater at hand? And so it's the consciousness, not the act, but the consciousness with that act that really invite us into this seva, this karma yoga, this path of service and enlightenment. Spirit is meeting spirit. Now, one of the stories of how Ram Dass lived into this, a little bit right after he came back from India in the 1970s, he was invited to go sit with a young man who was dying of terminal cancer. And he walks into, this hospital room, and he could tell the man was terrified of death. And all around this man were doctors, clergy, family members who were just trying to fix what was going on, right? Like, fix it with medication or medicine, fix it by telling the person, it's going to be all right, it's going to be all right, it's going to be all right, it's going to be all right. Really trying their best, and I'm sure with good heart, just trying to fix the situation. And in that moment, Ram Dass just entered and, thought, this is not about cheering this person up, as some of the other people were thinking that was for them to do. He really just got to a place of being so aware of being present to what was truly going on, that all he did was he sat next to the gentleman by his bedside, held his hand, and just said, I'm here, you don't have to be alone. How many of us give ourselves the opportunity to be that present? To take a step back from helping and fixing and seeing the brokenness and seeing the challenge and seeing the difficulty, to just asking, what is being asked of me in this moment, to just be present to. And later on, Ram Dass didn't try to fix anything. He didn't give a lecture. He was just president. And later on, that man let Ram Dass know, that was the first time I felt safe to die. But it only happened because Ram Dass was present to what was really needed. And the consciousness of the divinity within me is just going to be here with the divinity within you. And we're going to just be in our oneness. That's the kind of consciousness I'm talking about when we look at how we can be of service to those around us and to humanity. And through that, to our own Christ nature. Because I believe that our Christ nature, likes to be embodied, likes to be known, likes to be expressed. It's this consciousness, and consciousness evolves, right? Consciousness is expressive. And so it's by its very nature seeking to be expressed out into the world, and we have the opportunity to allow for that to happen, and through that, be blessed by it and be a greater blessing to those that are around us. It isn't about fixing the suffering. It is about being present to what that suffering is asking of us. It is about being present to what the moment is requiring of us from the place of our own divinity. When service flows in this way, Ram Dass and this idea of seva as the spiritual path says it becomes an act of devotion, because it is a devotion to God, a devotion to the God of our being, and a devotion to the God of your being, of your being, of your being. I love that he says, we are all affecting the world every moment, whether we mean to or not. Our actions and state of mind matter because we are so deeply interconnected with one another. And so we're already affecting those that are around us. We are already doing some work around us. The question is, what is the consciousness by which we are doing it? And can we become more mindful in the process so that we can awaken to the truth of what is really going on, walking each other home through the path of love, which is the path of service. And so that could mean next time that somebody is about to go through the door, that doesn't mean just opening the door, which is a beautiful thing, by the way. If you see me walking, by all means, please, everybody just get together and start opening doors for me, and I'll just walk right through. And the invitation is, as somebody is walking through that door, can you be fully present? Can you know that you have just opened the door to the divine? Can you be present to that simple act of service and what it can do to somebody? How many of us have had how many of us may be walking towards hitting that door? And it's such a good thing that somebody opens it up, right? And so consciousness and how we do things matter. It's, for example, not our ushers and our welcome team, not only welcoming somebody in, but really welcoming you in with an open heart, with an open mind, without even saying a word, saying, you're a blessing, and I am blessed that you are here with me. I know many of you have experienced that from our welcome team and our ushers, and that's what makes even the walking in to unity a positive and powerful experience. It is listening without judgment. It is showing up without judgment, our youth and family ministry facilitators, right? To being able to show up and be present to the children and what's at hand. It is about offering, our prayer chaplains, offering prayer with sincerity, without judgment, from just recognizing that regardless of what is going on in your life, you are whole, you are complete, and the very presence of God is within you. Right, Jen? Yeah. And so that is the consciousness that we're talking about, and that is the invitation that we have. So it's not about not doing some of the things that you're doing. It's maybe asking yourself, is now an opportunity for me to do it even more consciously and more mindfully? And if you maybe aren't doing and aren't being of service and aren't volunteering, asking yourselves, how can I be, right? Our engagement director, Leo, is back there after services. If there is an opportunity for you that is not only the perfect and right opportunity for you, but it is an opportunity that is seeking you, and not seeking you because we need to hand out envelopes or we need to sell things in the bookstore, right? I love that one of the things that was said about the pop-up bookstore is that they've become hosts. They become the welcoming spirit. It's not just about the transaction. It is about what happens through that transaction. And so that is the invitation, to become more aware, to recognize the power within each of our actions, and to do those things, right? So if you're already doing them, great. Look, is there a way to do it more consciously? He says, there are many levels at which you relieve suffering. You relieve suffering at one level by giving food. So it's not about not doing those things, right? And he says, you relieve suffering at another level by giving the food in such a way that it draws people out of the pain of their own separateness. This involves the idea of respect for the people you're serving and the dignity and really seeing. In service, it's the little steps that remind us that our souls can shine through in every one of our actions. And the opportunity before us is to transform. Because that's what happens when we are of that kind of service. We are transformed. Many of you know my story, and we don't have time to go through it, but it really was being of sacred service at Unity on the Bay that not only did I recognize more of what I was intending to be and do, but that my purpose in life became much clearer. My service path became my path of life. And I believe that each and every one of us, when we do question, where are we heading? What's this about? How can I get from here to the vision that I have? Service is always the answer. Because whether it is the energy that we put into the action and that specific action leading us to it, or whether it's just we are embodying the kind of energy and consciousness that will allow for us to live into all of the blessings, all of the miracles, and all of the abundance and wholeness that we know God to be. And so that is the invitation for us, to no longer just act, but to know the energy and the consciousness by which we act, and to see everything that is going on in the world as an invitation for you, for me, for us, to remember our truth and remember that we are here to support each other in witnessing the truth of God. Amen? Amen. And so here is our opportunity. Here is what is being birthed. And here is the path by which we can experience life anew. And yes, a rebirth in our own community, a rebirth in our own country, a rebirth in humanity, a rebirth in our own hearts. Especially mindful of some of the things that are going on in these days. Service awakens joy, compassion, reminds us of our oneness. And as Ram Dass said, regardless of what happens in the world, I'm still going to follow Maharaj's instructions every day. To love everyone, to serve everyone, and remember God. That is the heart of seva and this karma yoga. That is how we remember the truth of our being. And this week, I really invite you to think about one action or one service team at Unity on the Bay that you can do with that and be able to say, I serve the divine in others. I serve from the place of my divinity, and I see the divinity that is within you. As I said earlier, Ram Dass left a legacy in me that now invites me to see the kind of legacy I want to leave in the world. And the invitation is to start living your legacy in deeper and more powerful and more conscious ways right here and right now. Are you with me? Yes. Are you with me? Yes. Is this the moment your legacy starts? Yes. Is this the moment that your love continues to unfold in greater and bigger ways? Yes. Is this a moment that you not only think peace is possible, but you know that you are part of building that peace in the world? Yes. Oh, come on, people. All right, so you with me? Yeah. You with me? Yeah. Let's get going then. We are leaving a legacy of love, of peace, and of service. And for that, we are grateful. Namaste.